Bloomberg's Julie Fine and Michael McKee discussed the Federal Reserve leaving interest rates unchanged and the potential for rate cuts to come in 2024. They also discuss Hunter Biden challenging the House to allow him to testify publicly in response to the House's Biden impeachment inquiry. Both Julie and Michael speak with Kayleigh Lines and Joe Mathieu on Bloomberg's Balance of Power. Dollar sinks to 4-month low after Fed signals rate cuts next year. The dollar dropped to a fresh 4-month low on Thursday after the Federal Reserve's latest economic projections indicated the interest rate hike cycle has ended and lower borrowing costs are coming in 2024. The yen jumped in response, briefly breaking below 141 yen versus the greenback for the first time since late July. Meanwhile, the Aussie and New Zealand dollar surged to new multi-month highs after Australian employment data blew past forecasts. What the COP28 climate deal means for investors. Last-minute negotiations at the 28 Colombian pesos UN Climate Summit produced a consensus agreement on Wednesday. For the first time, leaders will call for a global transition away from fossil fuels to meet net-zero emission targets by 2050. Expectations for a meaningful deal were low after disputes over the use of phase-out language, which at one point was fully removed and replaced with voluntary options. Instead, the almost 200 nations involved agreed to begin transitioning away from fossil fuels and energy systems, in a just, orderly, and equitable manner. The eventual impact of the deal will largely depend on its implementation and funding by individual nations and private industry. But, we see several aspects to the deal that stand out for global investors. US dollar to Swiss franc drops to 0.8670 on dovish Fed decision, awaits SNB rate decision. US dollar to Swiss franc extends losses as the Fed's dot plot showed a decline of 50 basis points rate projection for 2024. SNB is expected to maintain its policy rate until the third quarter of the next year. US dollar loses ground on weaker PPI data for November. US dollar to Swiss franc continues the losing streak for the fourth successive day ahead of the Swiss National Bank's SNB interest rate decision, trading around 0.8670 during the Asian session on Thursday. SNB is anticipated to maintain its key interest rate until at least the third quarter of the following year, according to a majority of economists surveyed by Reuters. Australia, NZ dollars jump as US dollar dives, bonds get rate fever. The Australian and New Zealand dollars jumped on Thursday while bond yields tumbled as markets priced in ever more aggressive rate cuts in the United States and at home. A surprisingly strong Australian jobs report gave the Aussie an extra fillip, taking it to the highest in almost 5 months at 0.6708 Australian dollars equals D3. It had already risen 1.5% overnight after the U.S. Federal Reserve gave a dovish outlook on policy. Producer and import price index fell by 0.9% in November. December 14, 2023, the producer and import price index fell in November 2023 by 0.9% compared with the previous month, reaching 107.9 points. December 2020 equals 100. Lower prices were seen in particular for pharmaceutical products, petroleum and natural gas. Chemical products and petroleum products also became cheaper. Compared with November 2022, the price level of the whole range of domestic and imported products fell by 1.3%. These are the results from the Federal Statistical Office, FSO. Thank you.